Hi, I'm Alan, founder and managing director of Ruark Audio.
Hi, I'm Richard, Sales and Marketing Director at Ruark Audio. It seems like yesterday I joined, but it's actually
It's frightening.
coming up to, well, not far off 20 years. I joined January 2006.
Yeah.
It was a very different place back then.
It was.
I was looking at some of those photographs earlier and the old leather sort of peach sofa we had in here with the flowery curtains.
Yeah, I know. It was a bit different back then, wasn't it? Not the modern, trendy place. I mean, no. So we took the opportunity during COVID to completely revamp this place, and we bought next door. So that was but yeah, Richard's seen a lot of the transition, because before that we were primarily just a loudspeaker company. Quite a bit into, but Richard joined us just when we were starting to diverge.
Well, I think that's it. That was a transition year for us. That's when it all happened. So I joined January 2006, and the last pair of speakers, well, until now, that we sold was that year, 2006.
Yeah.
So that's when we ceased production out the back here, and we were fully focused on the new range of sort of premium small audio products, identifying the gap in the market, because there was nothing else out there at the time. I mean, I've always remembered you saying, there's space for a hi-fi radio, and that's where your idea of the R1 came along.
Yes, yeah.
And obviously it's evolved a lot since then, and with R2 and 410 and 810 and the products we do now. But it's been a really interesting journey along the way.
Yeah,
and also the way technology's changed.
I think I said earlier, we never meant to stop doing speakers. It's just that for a few years we got washed along with the R1. I wanted to build a little hi-fi radio, and I always loved radio. So it was just really growing up with Tony Blackburn and Radio 1 and listening to the Shark Show religiously every weekend. It was always on in the background. And so the opportunity came, and I think, but for us, it was like, we said initially we built this little radio to sell to our hi-fi stores, but then it opened up new markets for us, like John Lewis, and then people we'd never considered working with before.
No, I think, like you said, the intention was never to cease production of speakers at that time. It's just that this sort of new range of products really took off in that first year. To the point where we had limited resources, because we were a much smaller team back then as well. Yeah. So we had to kind of focus on what we were doing rather than spreading ourselves too thin. So, but that first year, so we launched the original R1, and do you remember the Sunday Telegraph?
Yes.
They labelled it the Aston Martin of DAB radios, and at that point we knew we were on the right track.
Yeah.
And then 2007, we launched the first generation R2. It got What Hi-Fi Product of the Year. Yeah. But it wasn't, which was great, but it wasn't really until 2008, and that's when things changed, when
the R4.
The R4i, yeah, the original R4i. And
I mean, at this moment, because that had a CD player in, obviously it had the DAB, the BFM, but it had the iPod dock on top.
Yeah.
And back then, iPod docks were, everybody wanted an iPod dock. So the fact we had this product that had the iPod dock on and everything you wanted, it was just, and that really got the one box solution going, didn't it?
Yeah, and there wasn't really anything around at that point of that nature.
No.
And I think that's it, like for us as a brand today, I think that is the key product that's kind of mapped out what we do today. When you look at some of the products now that we've just launched, like the 410 and the 810.
Yes, yeah.
It was the R4i that started that journey.
I think people want to, even now, people are looking, a lot of people, our customer certainly is looking for a very clean, simple environment with every product serves a purpose. It has to look beautiful in its place, and whether it be now I always say that our products are like ornaments. There's something you put in your home because they look beautiful too. Then you turn them on, and it is like, wow, it sounds good. It sounds great too.
We talk about coffee machines all the time. You don't know you need one until you see it for the first time. And the difference as well is seeing it is one thing, but hearing it, that takes it to another level. I think that's the thing. Like when you look at the people that we've got on board now, it's we've got a loyal team, and it's like I think everyone that joins here, in my time anyway, has gone through the same sort of cycle as I did. That it's new to them in some cases, but they quickly fall in love with the products. We're a family-run company. Everyone has a voice. We all see products start with a blank piece of paper, and the months of development that goes to getting them in the shops. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into that and getting them to market that the consumer doesn't see. And I think that's what everyone loves about having a voice. And it's like, and I think the latest product is I think.
What's coming? The one that's coming.
The one that's coming. We're launching the R610 as our first sort of step back into more sort of traditional hi-fi amp streamer, but also the passive speakers. And I was saying to somebody earlier, and I thought that I've seen the pressure that you've been putting on yourself over the last few months, because it's one of those. 20 years ago, we came out of making hi-fi speakers out the back here, and we set a really high benchmark.
Yep.
And went out on a high kind of thing, and now we're back doing it again. And we have to. There's high expectations of the Sabre-Rs that are coming out soon.
Yeah.
And do you think you put yourself under pressure?
No, I think so. No, absolutely, because it couldn't be second rate. It had to be. Had to be. Probably better than what we've done before in many ways.
Yeah.
I think it had to be said. We couldn't go out there and be as, it's good but not as good as something else. But as I said, in my mind, if the new Sabre's speakers that are coming are, they're just how I'd want them. I think they look great, they sound great, and I think this is the thing with what we do. I think you have to have conviction in yourself. I've always found that if you listen to too many other people, they'll all give their opinions, and you come out totally confused. You have to, and I think I've learned a lot from the years in doing, even with the speakers. I have a speaker A and speaker B, and I said, you want a speaker C that's a combination of both those. Well, there's loads of those, and of course you develop speaker C, and it just takes sales away from speakers A and B. So I think that we've really sort of got to the point now where listen to people up to a point, but follow your our gut feeling as to what we think is right.
I think that the industrial design of the new Sabre-Rs is, it's not like we've just started making speakers. I think there's been a big influence in what we've done over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
In the all-in-one systems, the combination materials, the slatted wood grille.
Yes.
That's gone into this as well,
Yes.
and we've obviously reached back to our past of the internal workings of a passive speaker, but there's a heavy influence of our sort of design ID or whatever you call it, that's gone into this.
I think we've achieved a level of. Initially, we had the idea of having this sort of baffle to cover up all the screws. I didn't like that. I wanted it to look like a little bit of the past, where you can see the fixtures and fittings, so you can see how the drive unit was held in place. Not too pretty. No, I think so. It looks a lovely little box when you put the grill on, but when you take the grill off, you see a little bit of the engineering that's got into it, and I think that's important to have that real proper. This is a proper hi-fi speaker. It doesn't just look nice. It's designed.
I think we talk all the time about design-led audio and lifestyle products, and I think the products that we've been doing, like the all-in-one music systems and R810, that's that centerpiece. It's that sort of flagship product in the range at the minute, and it's all about design. Obviously, audio quality technology that goes into it's important, but that is very much a statement piece.
Yes, yeah.
And when you look back at some of our speakers of the past, you can see the talismans over there in the corner. They were more like, well, I suppose back then they were like furniture.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think now that we're also designing hi-fi speakers that they've got a lifestyle look, but they've got beneath the surface, they've still got that core sort of hi-fi credential.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that, you know, that with the Sabres being a little bit smaller, it's about modern day living and how it fits into people's homes.
Yeah, we were talking with Jan earlier. We were talking about how, you know, we had this. They'd been the size of original Sabres, so it looked like.
It wouldn't look right.
We looked, you know, everything's got more compact and more. That's the way things are these days.
And the thing is, the design, we want people who might not necessarily have bought hi-fi in the past to buy these, because you know they look great, so they're gonna look lovely in your home.
Yeah.
And then you turn them on and they're gonna sing to you.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think the first one, I mean, the Aston Martin, when that came out, it was like, yes, they got what we were trying to do. They understood exactly where we wanted the Aston Martin. It was just, you know, when it said, no, we don't compromise. You know, we don't think. You know, we never really said ourselves, okay, we're going to build £100, £200 radio, and because then you have to really build to a cost. We just build the best we can at that price, and then we tend to have to set the price afterwards. And sometimes we spent more money on the production than we really wanted to. So it's very hard, but you know. But yeah, if we compromise, then we won't get the good reviews anymore. But I do think that the new product 610 Sabre-Rs, it's a really nice little package to get people that may be wanting to dip their toes into hi-fi for the first time. You know, it's affordable, and as a system, it's just this combination. You just have it's a streamer, or you can add a turntable to it. It just gives. Yeah, I guarantee that, like you said earlier, about, you know, when you got it right, when you play, you put one track on, then you put another track on. When you start just playing, because you're thinking, God, this sounds so good. I want to keep on playing music, and this is, you know, this tagline, "Get back to music," is where we're using with this new launch, because it really is meant, I think, a way of getting people back to music. The first point was that we always wanted something. I think the trouble with so many products today is that you look at them and think, what on earth is that? You know, it's just a box covered in material. I don't know what it is. Is it an air heater, or is it a dehumidifier? And no, it's a speaker. Okay, but so how do I control it? It's got no knobs, no buttons, and so I was very keen in the first place that we designed something that, as you said earlier, looked like a radio. You knew what it was. It's got a display on it. I think display. So you switch it on, you've got the time, or you've got the channel that's on there. You've got sort of buttons you can touch, but I think, but also, one thing that's sort of it's very appeal to me is that we want people to come up with little design elements that make it ours. So like the Rotodar controller. You know, like just certain little details that say that's a Ruark. But they're like the same ways you would pick out a quality car. Most premium car brands have certain elements about them, so you just know without the badge, you know exactly what it is. A lot of people try and copy it, of course. But I think, when we first started, a little bit like with the speakers. So when we first started the first Sabre, we made something that wasn't just a rectangular box. It had a bit of detail on it, so people would say, "Oh, what's that?" If they've got loads of speakers in a showroom, as it was back then, they look a bit different. What are they? And it was the same with ours. You know, I think for people that are just passing by and something catches your eye, it's you saw, and you take a step, it'd be in a shop window or whatever, you step back a bit, think, hey, that looks interesting, and so I think that was one thing. We wanted something that was eye-catching, and particularly. For the department stores, those sort of environments, you need something that catches people's eye. And
I think it's the evolvement of design. Mm-hmm. You know, when you look at the R1, for example, the first product that we ever did, and then you look at the next generation, and up to the fourth, and the R1S. You know, there's this natural progression in design.
Yeah.
But if you look at the most recent one, it's still the same size You know, still get the same footprint. It's still that sort of cute little compact box.
Yeah.
You know, so it hasn't changed a lot. It's a bit like, you know, we talked about it in the past about, you know, the Volkswagen Golf or whatever, Mark 1 compared to the one outside, or the Mini.
Yes.
You know, you still get that. You can still see it's a Mini from the original design, but it's much bigger or whatever in this case. And our focus is just making great products, and I think that's what people respect.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we don't sort of, you know, con people, rip people off. It's very. I think the dealers, they respect us. You know, it's treating others as you want to be treated yourself. I think that's very.
And I think
important.
I think even on our website you say, you know, in your words it is as well. You know, we design products that we ourselves would be proud to own.
That's right.
I think that's important. You know, that we're not just making products for the sake of making products. We're making products because we would have them in our own house first and foremost.
I've said that a few times today, haven't I? Yeah. My favourite thing. Yeah, but it's true though. It's true. I think it wasn't something that.
But I think everyone, whether they work within these walls or sales guys out on the road, or we're honest. We're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. You know, we wear our heart on our sleeve. You know, this is, you know,
definitely.
This is what you see is what you get with Ruark.
Yes. Yeah.